What's up everyone, it's B the Installer and my lovely wife Jen.
Hi guys.
And we're here with the Hisense U7H 85-inch enormous TV. One of the best value TVs you can buy. And I know everyone's gonna be like, but it's Hisense. Shouldn't I just buy a Samsung or an LG in the same size with the same price point? No, you shouldn't. In all seriousness, you have to decide what TV you want on your own, but we're gonna give you a few reasons why you should consider a brand like Hisense or TCL.
Yeah, I'm excited to learn more about this because I'm more your typical consumer. I just wanna know, can I watch my Hallmark movies? Can I watch sports? Like, is it gonna turn off and on when I want it to? You know, I'm not too fancy. So let's go ahead and get into it, B.
Let's do it.
Excited to learn.
Jen's got the knife, so why don't you go ahead and open the box.
Okay.
This does have the World Cup logo on the front. It's a pretty cool looking box. So I figured, Jen, I would tell you a couple soccer jokes. Does that sound good?
Hit me.
All right, I got a really good one to start. What did the bumblebee forward say after getting a goal?
I don't know what.
I've scored.
Okay.
You like it?
Sure.
This is a really good one. Why can't you play soccer with pigs?
I don't know.
Because they hog the ball. All right, that's enough. Let's move on.
Let's check it out. Looks like we've got a remote and cord. Lovely. We've got this how to install your stand, and we noticed that there are buckles on the other end, so we will be able to take the box apart instead of having to lift it up and over, which is my preference.
Nice.
Looks like we've got a foot and another foot.
Awesome. Let's get it unboxed and throw it up. So we got 4 of those little clips on this side to hold it on, 4 on the front, and then we have like what, 3 on each side?
4 on the side.
16 clips. This might be an all-time record.
Yeah, it's a big clip.
Let's see how fast you can do it. While Jen's pulling the tabs off, you can obviously see that this box is enormous. So the first reason that you might get a Hisense 85-inch U7H is because it's just enormous. And for the price point, it's very difficult to beat. You'd have to pay twice as much to get a Samsung with similar quality, and probably at least 25 to 30% more to get a Sony with similar quality. So, you know, I just want you to think about that when you check out this TV and how good it looks later on, that the size and the price point is tough to beat from this Hisense TV. All right. 12 in like 20 seconds. That's some sort of record. All right, here, can I help you up?
Sure.
All right, there you go. Now clean them all up. I'm just kidding. Nice work on that, Jen.
Thank you.
All right, we'll open it up or what? And just slide it my way. Make sure that TV doesn't tip.
Yep.
Please.
Get that up. I'll just stand here.
So the box is very eco-friendly, not a lot of paint or anything on there. We got nice protection in the front with this thick cardboard. Let's get all this stuff out of the way so we can put the stand on, yeah?
Let's do it.
All right. Yeah, I'll take that one. Okay, so what it says in the instructions is to take these 4 pieces off and lay them on the ground in a pattern, and then we lay the TV on it and then put the feet on from the front. So let's take these off and we'll put these behind the TV. Okay. You ready? Honestly, I think if we just use 2, we'd be okay. Slide that in a little bit. I think that's the ticket right there. And let's lift the TV out and lay it flat. Ready? 1, 2, 3. And then we got to tip it. Make sure it lands on that one because right now it's not. All right. All right. Just go down. There we go.
So we have 2 different locations that you can put the feet. We've got a wider spot and we've got a more narrow spot. We're gonna go on the wider side. And the other thing I kind of like is sometimes we don't know which one is the left or the right foot, but this is a T, so we line that up with the T right here. So far I really like the idiot proof of this TV.
Nice.
There we go.
Well, that was easy. I didn't have to do anything.
And we were really good because we remembered to put them both on wide and not one wide and one narrow.
There you go. Let's stand it up.
Let's do it.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. It's a very sturdy stand. All right. Let's take this off. Pick it up. Something that I've never seen on TV before. It's got handles. I'm not sure how helpful that's going to be. You can take them off. They're just Phillips head screws. So I imagine once you have it where you want it, you could just take the handles off, but it's kind of neat. Let's move it forward and then let's get the stand behind it. Not very practical.
It's still a little high for a 5-footer.
Okay, cool. So let's move it. 1, 2, 3. This one's heavier. It's in this thing.
Crap.
It's a crepage drawer.
Okay, B, you ready to get this TV up on this stand?
Hey.
Okay, hey, old man, don't forget to bend at the knees, okay?
Old man, that's not very nice. 1, 2, 3. We got it up here, so let's turn it on, right?
Yeah, no. The whole reason why I'm here to help is to get the plastic off.
Okay, well, let's get the plastic off.
Let's do it.
Okay, cool. It looks pretty good, Jen. I think it's time to look at the back of the TV and find out how we can get these handles off and what other features there are, what kind of mount it takes, all that before we turn it on. Should we do it?
Let's do it.
So what do you think, Jen?
Yeah, it's a good looking back. I like these handles, but I don't know that they're really that useful.
No, they're not really practical. We tried to lift them with the handles. Wasn't working out, but you know, so be it. We can take them off. It does have a 600 by 400 millimeter VISA pattern on the back. So putting up TV mount, you're good to go. It's pretty much standard as long as you have something that can do that 600 millimeter. So it's normally just an extra large mount that you need to get. Then on the bottom right here, you have all the connectivity. You got USB connections, you got some HDMI ports, you got your cable antenna at the bottom there. And then on the back here, you got another USB, optical out, and an Ethernet jack. And this is another reason you might consider Hisense, which is there's 4 HDMI ports on the back of this TV, and 2 of them can game 4K at 120 frames per second. It's very similar to most other brands of TVs, except for maybe the best Samsung or the best LG that would have 4 of these gaming ports. So I think 2 is enough. It's the same that Sony has, the same that TCL has, very sufficient, and this should be a pretty good gaming TV.
Okay, and here we've got the Hisense remote. So it's pretty standard for a remote. We've got our power button, we've got our directional pad here to move through the menu, then we've got our volume, our channel, we've got our different inputs, and then a bunch of these channel-specific buttons. So you can use your favorite ones here. We like to use a lot of Netflix and Disney+. It's not backlit or anything, but you know, all in all, it gets the job done. So let's go ahead and turn it on.
Okay, so we got the TV set up and we're gonna give it 24 hours here, see what we like, see what we don't like, come back and report to you guys. So, sound good?
Sounds great.
All right. Thanks for helping, by the way.
Of course.
All right. All right, so we've given it a day, and that included me watching the US versus Iran soccer game. And I wanted to show you a couple settings that need to be changed on this because the TV comes with it in energy saving mode. So I wanna make sure that we're not in that mode because we can see how bright the TV gets if we put it in a different mode. And I'm actually gonna put it in the standard mode here just so we can see what it looks like with it at 100% brightness and all that. And then the color temperature looked too blue for me, so I'm going to put it into the low color temperature, which is gonna warm it up. And then there's motion enhancement. Some people just leave this off, and then some people crank it all the way up to make it look more like a soap opera. I prefer it just in the middle here. I leave them at 3 and 3. And then there's some other features like the noise reduction that may help if you're watching lower resolution content, which is some of the stuff I'm going to show you. So I'm just going to leave those all set at medium. And then the other settings are for HDR and gaming, and we'll check those out in a little bit. And that leads me to the operating system, which is another reason you should consider Hisense TVs because this operating system is the exact same as all of the Sony TVs and some of the TCL TVs. And the great thing about the Google OS is that it just has a ton of apps. So it's rare that you couldn't find an app that you need. You can go into the Play Store, download specific ones. This Google TV is one of the only OSs that actually has the Sunday ticket, which is something we watch every year. So very easy for me to get in there, download it, not have to have a third-party device to get into the apps that I want to get into. And if you have a Google account, then you can integrate your Google TVs all across the platform. For example, we have YouTube TV. So this TV now knows that all of these different shows that my wife watches, you know, where we left off and which ones we're watching. And so it's very nice that it just has all the different things that we're used to, all the different apps. It recommends things that we have from Disney Plus, Hulu, HBO Max, YouTube TV, all the different apps. It's just a really good operating system. The only difference between this and the Sony is that the Sony has the Bravia Core, its own app where it has a bunch of movies and you can get a couple of them downloaded for free if you buy a Sony TV. However, I don't really use that app anyways when I have a Sony TV because all of the movies that are on that Sony Bravia Core are typically on HBO Max or Netflix or Hulu or some other platform. So I just really don't use it. But enough about the Google OS. Let's get into some content. I want to get back to that soccer game and show you some sports and some other content on this TV. As I said, I just watched the USA win against Iran in the World Cup here. You know, but this is just a preliminary stage. So now they got to play the Netherlands on Saturday, and that's going to happen probably before you watch this. So best of luck, USA. We'll see. And I watched it both on this Hisense and the LG G2 97-inch, which is across from it. And I did notice some similarities, some differences, but all in all, I was pretty happy watching it on the U7H. It's a very bright screen. I felt like the motion and details and everything were very good, even on this lower resolution content. However, the processing wasn't perfect, especially when you have a lot of little people on the screen running around, such as soccer. I felt like the $25,000 OLED was a little bit better with regards to its processing, especially when there's a lot of movement. But that's going to be expected because this is a $1,500 85-inch TV. Of course, there's a little bit of a benefit if you're going to buy a $5,000 LG OLED instead of this $1,600 LED TV. Yes, the LG OLED's probably going to be a little bit better. But I did notice that in this SDR or standard dynamic range content, this U7H is far brighter than the OLED. One thing watching this soccer brought to my attention is that the dirty screen effect or screen uniformity is pretty important if you're going to be watching a lot of soccer. I didn't notice it on the TCL that I have, the LG, or this TV until I really watched soccer. But when people are going across the screen or the screen's moving fast left to right and there's just that green pitch behind it, you can really see if the screen uniformity is not good. So let's check that testing out with the dirty screen effect test that we use. So we're looking at what I think is the best dirty screen effect test by ModernWise, where if you just look at the hockey player, you see what would be the screen uniformity issues behind him. And this TV is not perfect. A lot of these LED TVs aren't. But I don't want to give this one a pass just because a lot of them aren't. I can clearly see that there's some screen uniformity issues in the middle of the screen going up and down. In addition, around the edges, there's almost like an entire border around the TV. It's not super noticeable, but it is noticeable. But I want to use this opportunity to let you know that might be another reason to go with a less expensive TV, because even if you get a more expensive TV, even a $25,000 OLED like I have here, it doesn't mean that the dirty screen effect is going to go away. A lot of these screens have uniformity issues, and if it's something you notice, then it's kind of just the luck of the draw. And I'd rather have a $1,500 TV have some of these issues than a $5,000 or $10,000 or $25,000 TV. So not giving it a pass. It's not perfect. I wish this TV was better, but it is what it is, and most people won't notice it unless you do this kind of thing, or maybe you're watching soccer or even gaming on a white screen going back and forth, then you might notice it more often. And though I'm not happy to see this, what I am excited for is to watch some HDR movies on this TV since it's huge and bright. So now I have on Encanto on Disney Plus, which, you know, I've used this a bunch of times this year. I really like it because it's full screen. It has very bright highlights and very dark scene. It's animated, so it gives you all of the things that you might expect. And I have to say that I'm pretty impressed with the U7H. It's a very bright TV. It has good shadow detail. And the best way to maybe summarize what I think about how this HDR performs on this TV is that there are a lot of TVs out there at this price point from the Samsungs, the Sonys, and the LGs. And they do not have this sort of HDR performance at this price. Now, yes, again, you can buy the top level of those TVs and you might get this kind of performance or better performance. But for the price point of this 85-inch TV, this has really nice bright highlights. You can see the bright, vibrant colors in almost every scene. And then when you go to darker scenes that are more challenging, this U7H just lets you see everything that the movie has to offer. You're just not missing out. And at the same time, it's just an impressive overall picture. But in order to challenge this TV, we really need to turn it to a widescreen movie, something maybe that is a little bit darker on average compared to that bright HDR movie we're watching. So if you're watching something like Star Wars: The Force Awakens, You can see that the stars in the background are still pretty bright, but the overall picture is a little bit lifted. So black isn't black, it's more of a dark gray, and that's just the nature of an LED TV. But at this size and price point, it's great that you can see those stars and that this TV overall is very bright. But we really should just check out a blooming test because that will show us how good this backlit LED TV can handle both the bright and the dark areas on the screen at the same time. So doing this blooming test, the Hisense U7H performs pretty well, even though it seemed to have raised black levels on the real type content. Sometimes that can happen. Sometimes the TV can look better in the blooming test or better in real content. But I have to say, this is as good as the mid to high level Sony and Samsung, LG, all those TVs. So overall, if you're watching regular content, bright animated movies, you're good with a TV like this. If you're watching a lot of dark content with subtitles, widescreen bars, something like Star Wars Force Awakens, or even if you're watching House of Dragons, it may not look as good as an OLED does or a super expensive QLED TV, but I'm still very impressed with this TV overall, and so far so good. But I think we should get it back to some bright footage, so let's get into gaming. So before we can get into the gaming, we actually have to go into the menu because the HDMI format is set at standard format and we need to change it to enhanced format. And once we do that, then it allows the game to be played in HDR and possibly Dolby Vision, 4K 120, all that. And then once you have that HDMI format changed to enhanced, you can also go into the game zone and get game information, which is pretty cool. You can see the frame rate, if it's an HDR or not, the VRR support, and then ALLM, which is auto low latency mode or game mode. So you can see all that information on the right. I wanted to show you that before we get into the gaming because I don't want to lose once I'm playing by looking at that. Okay, so now we're playing Rocket League, which is a really fun and bright, vibrant video game. So you can see kind of the highlights of what this TV can do, and we can talk about the features. Again, it has 4K 120 on 2 of the HDMI ports, so it's very comparable to a lot of the other big time TVs out there. Again, it was a point we made earlier, one of the reasons why you'd go with a Hisense TV. Now, I do feel like it's not quite as punchy or as colorful as the U7H. Of course, that's the next step up. That's a mini LED Hisense. So this is probably the mode in which it's most noticeable that it's not quite as good as the U7H. But I still think for the price point, the size, it's a very enjoyable gaming experience, not to mention the gaming specs that it has that make it rival a lot of other high-end TVs. But I'm quite satisfied playing Rocket League, and I think for the most part, it's going to be a fun gaming TV. So I wanted to finish up the video by just talking about the points that we made earlier about why you might consider a Hisense versus some of the other TVs. It really is tough to beat the quality that you're getting and the size that you're getting for the price point. All of the other major brands that have a TV anywhere near this price point do not perform to this level, except for maybe the TCL 6 series, which is another one to consider. In addition to the size and the price and the quality, you also get very similar hardware quality. This does have 2 HDMI ports that can game at 4K at 120, and a couple years ago that wasn't the case for some of the top brands, let alone Hisense. So it's a very good upgrade. But now 2022, 2023, you have that on all the different brands. So it's not something that the Hisense lacks. And in the same way, it also has the same Google TV OS that all of the Sony TVs have. So you're able to download all sorts of apps. You have the ability to connect your Google account. And really, there's very little reason that you'd need a third-party device to connect this TV because you have almost everything you need right in that Google TV OS. And then if your only main gripe is that you just don't know Hisense or you don't care for Hisense, I mean, you have to think, this does come with its own 2-year warranty, so there is that. And if you're still worried about the Hisense brand name because you're not as familiar with it, or you're just not certain or you don't want to pull the trigger, remember, you're saving a lot of money by buying this because it's comparable to TVs that are twice as expensive. So now you could afford an extended warranty, for example, and that'll give you a peace of mind for 2 or 5 years or however long you get that warranty for. But overall, I'm very happy with the Hisense U7H. It's on par with almost all of the LED TVs that I've seen. I think it's right up there with the X90K from Sony. It's probably a little bit better, maybe not as good as the X95K. I think from a Samsung standpoint, it's not quite as good as the QN90B, but again, it's half the price. And it's right up there with the quality of the QNED 85 from LG. Again, very close comparison, but again, I believe that is at least $1,000 more than this TV. So if you're looking for a TV that punches above its weight, something that's very bright, has very good black levels, you can game on it, you can watch HDR, you can watch sports, the Hisense U7H is something you definitely consider. And that's why I recommend these sorts of TVs to my friends and family, because they're just so good for the money. So definitely let me know in the comments what you guys think. Do you agree? Could you go with a Hisense or a TCL, or would you rather take a more known brand and maybe not quite the quality? You have to let me know in the comments, ask any questions, and make sure to smash the like button on the way out, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next one.